Hey everyone, welcome to the video. We're going to break down tonight's MLB main slate for on DraftKings. Before we continue though, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate that. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter at cpen_16. That's with 2 N's. Just feel free to tweet me any questions, and also feel free to comment below any questions you have, or if you just want to say hi, you can say hi as well. Alright, so anyway, let's get into the slate. First off, I want to let you know that I'm still working on my model and updating it and stuff, just trying to get it finalized and stuff, but I am liking it so far. I know it's really high on the Mariners tonight. I mean, we got Vogelback, Encarnacion, Jay Bruce, Santana. All those guys are really popping up tonight. Anthony Rendon, and some of the Philly bats and some of the national bats as well. So just giving you an update on that. I'm not fully ready to use it yet, but I am still updating it and working some kinks out. Alright, but anyway, let's get into the slate again. So I think the number one pitcher tonight is Syndergaard. I don't know if his ownership's going to be lower because what happened to DeGrom last night. I mean, the Twins absolutely went off, so that's I don't like that. But Syndergaard's coming at a nice price actually, 10,400. I mean, he's the best pitcher on the slate. I don't think it's any question that he is. I mean, he's got elite numbers all around. He doesn't give up any power. He's got an insane K rate, not insane, but he's a great strikeout pitcher. He's got 27% to righties, 20% to lefties. Limits the hard contact. I mean, overall, he's just an elite pitcher. I think he's got the highest upside of the slate, and he's coming at a nice price. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if he was priced in the 11,000s today, but at 10,400, that's kind of screaming a little bit of a value to me for a guy who can score 30 points. Also, want to talk about Robbie Ray for the Diamondbacks, 9,400. So you're going to get 1,000 savings off of Syndergaard. And I think it's a really nice matchup for him. We know he's a high strikeout guy, but he will walk a lot of guys, but so he's not that safe, but he does have plenty of upside going against these Rangers. They do struggle versus lefties. You can see they only have 134 ISO, team ISO. Now, their lineup does have a lot of righties in it, which is a concern because yesterday they had a bunch of lefties, and I was looking like, oh, this is probably the number one play on the slate. But if this is their projected lineup, it does give me a little bit of worry because I don't think they're going to strike out as much. But as you can see, his splits versus lefties compared to righties are absolutely, they're pretty substantial. Limits all the power to lefties, strikes out 34% clip, limits the walks, a high ground ball rate, a low fly ball rate. But then when it comes to the righties, he gives it up. I mean, he still strikes them out 30% of the time, but he's going to walk them 15% of the time. He gives up a lot of hard contact, high fly ball rate, and I'm only seeing 2 lefties right now in the projected lineup, so that does worry me. So I am lower on him than I was last night when I was looking first. So a little bit of concern there, which is kind of making me want to go up to Syndergaard, but we will see later. I can have to see how the actual lineup is. If there's some more lefties, I'm definitely going to be interested, but I am concerned with the righties. But they're not that good of righties. I mean, DeShields, Andrews is decent, Hunter Pence. So I'm not that concerned. Their best hitters on the Rangers are lefties like Chu, Gallo, Mazara, Odor. So that's a positive thing for him. I just think he's a little bit risky, but he definitely has plenty of upside. Another guy I like is Colin McHugh. He's 8,800 going against the Yankees. I know I've said I like the pitchers versus the Yankees every day of this week, but I don't know, it's just how it happens each time. They strike out a ton to righties, nearly 27% of the time. Obviously, Judge and Voit are going to be pretty scary versus righties, but I think he can get around this lineup and get some strikeouts. Colin McHugh's a really good pitcher, in my opinion. He's got a high strikeout rate. He's just good all around. He limits the power, especially to righties, and this is a really right-handed heavy lineup. We have Greg Bird and Tyler Wade and Brett Gardner as lefties, but I mean those guys really scare you that much. And I think there's a lot of strikeouts in the lineup, and I don't mind using Colin McHugh. It's a good pitcher's park. He is a favorite. It's a decently low over/under. I believe it's 8. He's only 8,800, so I think he's got 20-point upside, and I wouldn't mind if you used him. He's got a good price. And the last pitcher I want to talk about is Yu Darvish, and there's a reason why, because I know he hasn't been good this year, but so there's no Vegas over/under yet because I believe they're waiting on the wind. But the reason I'm interested in Yu Darvish is because of the wind. So if we look at Kevin Ralph's Weather Edge model, when they have 20-mile-per-hour projected wind coming in at Chicago, and Chicago Stadium is very heavily influenced by the wind. And just based on 97 games matching these current conditions, it drops the home run factor 31%, the total runs 5.7%, and it helps the ERA by 9.2%. So I actually think Yu Darvish could be sneaky, especially with the wind blowing in. So make sure you just keep an eye on the weather, and I think that could be a nice sneaky play at 7,400. He's still got the strikeout upside. He just hasn't showed it this year. He hasn't had any control or anything. But the Pittsburgh offense isn't really that scary. I mean, I know they have some decent lefties like Frazier and Bell, but nothing too scared about. So I don't mind you Darvish as a sneaky play, especially that wind blowing in. He's got a lot of good stuff going for him. All right, so let's talk about the bats now. I think the number one, there's like a 1A and 1B tonight. So we'll talk about the Athletics first, going against Baltimore. They've had 2 great days in a row in Baltimore. I mean, the Baltimore pitchers suck, and now they're going to be going against Dan Straley, who's just not a good pitcher all around. Just look at his numbers. He gets absolutely demolished by lefties and righties as well. Just a little bit slightly better against righties, but nothing to write home about. Actually, a lot more fly ball rate versus righties as well, and just a ton of hard contact. And we know this lineup crushes right-handed pitching. So I think Chris Davis is possibly the number 1 play on the board tonight. I feel like he's almost a lock for a home run. Stephen Piscotty, he smashes righties. Matt Chapman smashes righties. I'm not too interested in Marcus Semien if he's going to be batting 6th. Robbie Grossman leading off is interesting as well. But I think the Athletics are either the 1A or 1B tonight. I think they're a fantastic play. They have one of the highest Vegas over on totals. So I think the Athletics are great plays tonight. I also like the Mariners just about as much as I like the Athletics, really. Last night their pitcher was projected to be Phil Meyer. That's how you say his name, but now it's Lopez. And Lopez really isn't that good either. He gets really hit by lefties and righties as well. Just a little bit better versus righties, but overall you can still hit this guy very well. So guys like the whole lineup I really like. Malik Smith, Mitch Haniger, Domingo Santana, Jay Bruce, Encarnacion. He's been hot. Narvaez, a guy you play every single night. He's cheap every night, and he just produces every night. So let's look at Lopez's main pitch. He's going to throw the sinker a lot. It's going to be his main pitch. And if we look at the sinker versus right-handed, Jay Bruce really stands out. 237 ISO, high WOBA, hard hit rate, high exit velocity. So Jay Bruce is going to stand out. He's been hot this year. I want to say he has like 6 or 7 home runs too. I know he's homered 2 days in a row now. So Jay Bruce really stands out. And also Lopez is going to throw the slider a lot to right-handed bats, which we have a lot of right-handed bats in here. And these guys crush the right-handed slider. Haniger stands out, Jay Bruce, Encarnacion, Domingo Santana. We know Malik Smith doesn't have a ton of power, but he can get on base. But yeah, these guys crush the right-handed slider. And he's also going to throw the curveball a lot to righties and lefties as well. And these guys smash that too. Santana, Bruce, Encarnacion. So all these guys really stand out as excellent plays. Them and the Athletics are probably my favorite stacks tonight. I think they're just all in excellent spots. So no problem if you want to go Mariners or Athletics. And they're decently priced too. So definitely like them tonight. I also want to talk about the Royals in the same game. I'm not too interested in the Royals, but I don't mind Whit Merrifield versus a lefty any day of the week. And Mondesi's fine as well. And Soler absolutely crushes left-handed pitching. I know he didn't last night, but I like those 3 guys. Not that high on them, but I think they're in good spots. Also want to talk about the Brewers lefties again, just like last night. I liked them last night versus the righty. Pena struggles versus lefties. He's halfway decent versus righties, but versus lefties is where we can attack him. So that's going to stand out to guys like Christian Yelich, obviously one of the best hitters in the league. So he's going to stand out as a good play. Travis Shaw, Moustakas, Grandal. I believe he double-donged last night. So if he can stay hot. Eric Thames crushes righties too, but he's hitting really low in the lineup. And if we look at the Brewers versus sinkers, so that's what he's going to throw the majority of the time versus right-handed, left-handed bats. So Yelich is obviously going to stand out to me, and all these lefties, this lineup just crushes it. Gundall, 412 ISO. He's really saying I was a nice play at catcher. I haven't made lineups yet, so I don't know how easy these guys are going to fit in, but they're really standing out. They also throws the slider a lot to, yeah, he's going to throw the slider a lot as well, and these guys crush the slider as well. So they're going to match up really well versus Pena. They hit the low ball really nice. And if you need some salary, I don't mind the Orioles lefties. They're all pretty cheap. So guys like Dwight Smith Jr., he stands out as a decent play tonight. I'm not a big fan of Montas. He really gives it up to lefties. And it's a good hitting ballpark. Ruiz is somewhat interesting. I know he's really cheap. He's in cleanup. And this is the ugliest play in the world, but Chris Davis is 2,000 tonight, and he actually does grade out somewhat well versus Montas. So if we're going to look at Montas's main pitch, it's going to be the sinker. He throws it 60% of the time to lefties. And Chris Davis, unfortunately for us, because that makes him kind of somewhat in play, he does crush that kind of. So I think there's a cheap home run upside. Maybe he gets out of that slump. I'm not saying to play him in cash or anything, but it's worth a shot at 2,000. Get you some really good bats, maybe stack up the whole Athletics and Mariners and throw in Chris Davis. So don't mind some of these cheap lefties. All right, let's talk about the Mets lefties as well. They kind of got the Gibson last night, which I did put them in the sheet last night because I was worried about the lefties versus Gibson, but Jake Odorizzi isn't a very good pitcher in my opinion. He gives up a lot of power to lefties, you can see, and the righties as well, but slightly worse to lefties. So that's going to put in Brandon Nimmo as a good play. I believe he homered last night. I know Conforto did. So Conforto, Cano, Nimmo, they're all in play. Jeff McNeil maybe. Not the highest on them, but definitely in play for sure. And then I like the Phillies going against Hellickson. I know Hellickson had a decent year last year, but I don't think he's that good of a pitcher. He's going to throw a lot of fastballs. Yeah, so Bryce Harper's going to stand out. Rhys Hoskins stands out. Real Muto. Hoskins definitely, though. He's got a lot of power. And Andy's been hot as well. And Harper seems to be crushing his old team, so I don't mind those two as well. The Phillies, I know, have a high implied total tonight, and they're just a good lineup all around. So I don't mind the Phillies as well. And also some BVP plays tonight. I looked at Baseball Savant. Anthony Rendon versus, who's pitching? Oh, Pivetta. Yeah, so Anthony Rendon is 6 for 12 with 3 home runs, 0 strikeouts, and a 0 whiff percentage. So if you like BVP, Rendon's a great play. And Bryce Harper actually does have 2 home runs off of Hellickson in his career. So those are the 2 BVP plays. Alright guys, that's all I have for the video. If you have any questions, you can comment below. If you could, follow me on Twitter at cpen_16. That's with 2 N's. But anyway, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that, and good luck today.